All right, so everybody, welcome. Daily trading recap for Tuesday, the 21st of September, 2021 here. Little recovery day, a little bit from SPY here after that hard, nasty sell-off gap down yesterday. Not too much strength compared to when we used to see these kind of huge drop-off sell-offs and then just quick, beautiful green days immediately following that day after it. So call it a little bit of a bounce day. Of course, it still is showing red on the daily too. So just not as confident or not as much strength showing here that this is just going to be another one of those quick fade off by the dip, and then we're going to continue right back in that trend again, this kind of channel that we were trading in, because of course we broke that bottom of that channel. I actually was thinking about getting short through options on the SPY in the morning too, because of just how we've seen this repeatable pattern that hadn't played out in the last few trading days, but when it just became this, you get this nice little after hours movement, pre-market starts to hold decently well. This is a pretty good example of it here on this day too, where after hours holds decently, pre-market shows a little bit of strength, and then market hours just absolutely tanks it. Same thing here on this day, the same thing of after hours does whatever, pre-market holds pretty nicely and then just fade. The whole trend in market hours is to the downside. So thought we were going to see a little bit of that today too. It was a little bit sell-offish during pre-market anyway, but it was holding decently from that bounce into the close from yesterday. So thought maybe this could be just a little bit more fading closer down to that level, and if it starts to potentially pick up more speed, maybe we get into more of a panicky type of market, that sell-off start to come, maybe that actual rollover starts to happen close to today, or maybe we actually do see a little bit of a closer trend back up to that 450 level all-time highs once again. Who knows? I'll be interested to watch, and yeah, it's hard for me to say that anything as of right now is going to push me hard to try and play options on this. For how many times I've done that in the past and gotten burned by them. Made some profits here and there, but really just not my focus right now. I think I'm keeping my attention well, focusing it on what I really want to play to, and came out today too in my trades of only taking one in and out today too on HLBZ. Had some other opportunities that I was watching, but just nothing came to fruition from those. So I think it fit me pretty well today. I just felt confident in what I was doing in the trading, and my, not having to fill that dopamine hit sensor for the trading factor today too. I think it was a pretty great day. So let's get into some other housekeeping before we get going. VIX, of course, coming back down a little bit to around that 23, 25-ish range, pulling back a little bit off that peak that it had here. So maybe potentially, like I was mentioning with SPY coming back to the upside, maybe we get a little bit pullback more on that VIX. Really just a guess game for me at this point. I have no hard data on that other than just what I feel I've been reading that's been doing in the past few weeks. Market internals on the day in regards to dollar volume, NASDAQ, pretty low dollar volume day. We are right exactly at 1 hour after the close now. $180 billion volume, NYSE $274 billion volume, and OTC's $2.3 billion volume. Decent around the horn. Some other OTC tickers starting to move, and I have a few on watch list actually going into tomorrow. ILUS I'll mention first, the one that I did not trade, coming into this crazy parabolic move here. Awesome to see. The dollar volume today was decent, 24 million. Thought we were going to get some, looking for that panic dip buy opportunity, and I thought it was going to happen right away from the open. Really no other option other than if it was going to start spiking and potentially test this 42 level, would I have gotten long? Maybe I've tried to play a breakout that way, but otherwise I was looking for a long off of that dip buy opportunity. This thing only caved like 10%, and it just was not that much of a panic, and this volume was nowhere near close, even from the percentage-wise move on the chart. This is nowhere near close to saying it's a panic dip buy. That could be a classic slam dunk opportunity, playing this thing quick to the upside. It was barely even under VWAP too, which was the funny thing. VWAP was trending very closely to it the whole time as it was in this dip. And I think I mentioned yesterday, or was it the day before as well too? I mentioned yesterday that I might be even willing to let one of the fake out turns go. If it does fake out turn, if it becomes the actual turn, then fine, okay, I missed it, because of what it likes to do here on this little stutter step on big volume, as you can see on the camera. And then, it does a little bit of stutter step. So even if it was to tank to an appropriate risk level, I was ready for 30 at least as almost a minimum, waiting for this thing to panic to that level before I was going to get super intrigued to try and play this thing as a panic dip buy. But even if it got to that point too, I was keeping in the back of my mind, hey, I'm kind of willing to let it go first. I think it could have a fake out in there before a potential actual dip buy comes. And that was very much so predicted by this huge volume candle that came in for the dip buy. I think Tim Sykes actually played this one too for 4% gain, which is whoopee great. And when you're trading big dollar size position size, yeah, that's absolutely great. But for small account trading size, it's just like, yeah, is that really worth it with OTC fees? And yeah, you can still make a nice little profit, but it's just like, is that where I want to be diverting my cash account cash, or is that where I want to be spending my day trades as of right now in this sense too? So just struggle on that one. But overall, even with a big position, even if I did have a big account size in total, I don't really know if I would be so motivated to play this dip buy. I was watching the turn perfectly. I think Chris even said he was as well too, right at that 33 level. I thought 33 was going to break actually for a little bit. We were printing on 33 pretty hard, and then bid support came in to push that thing back to the upside. Little fake out, but then a little more opportunity after that pullback. And then Art of War pretty much predicted this thing perfectly, that for a first red day, this thing was just not continuing to drop off. It was just holding VWAP well. And he mentioned it literally minutes right before this actual squeeze happened at 10:30 Eastern Standard Time point in time. You get this, like, this is where short squeeze happened, is what his little phrasing was on that this thing is not continuing to die off, and there's so many shorts bagged in this thing. And especially, like Huddy mentioned as well too, of, man, these shorting OTCs is just so tough in general because of all of the fees. And you got to be right with conviction, because going in and out is really not a possibility. It just eats away your profits so quickly. So anytime there's somebody short, they're not going to be looking to potentially just willing to be get in, get out, or look for a better opportunity. They're kind of have just stuck bag holding it until the huge opportunity comes, the huge sign hits you over the head to say, hey, this is your time to cover. And then when that happens, there's just more of an accumulation of people that are stuck there sitting at that point. And you get these little short squeezes like Art of War mentioned. This little push to the upside failed to actually come close to that 4.2 mark, the new trend high of day. Is that all-time highs, would it be? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, whatever. This chart is stupidity. But pretty much all-time highs for this little trend here, at least too. It'll be interesting to see what this wants to do tomorrow, because will it panic? Will more longs have been in this thing from yesterday too? It's still red on the day, of course. It looks like a first red day, a beautiful first red day, like, oh, looks super nice on the daily. But then getting down to the nitty-gritty on the intraday, it's just very tough of like, whoa, where are longs focused? Where are shorts focused on this one? Is it obvious risk levels that are still being stuck to if you're long, if you're a short? I mean, does this thing still have the opportunity to panic going into tomorrow, because it already had a little bit a mini panic right away from the morning tomorrow? If it does the same thing again too, is it just going to be another 10% drop off, and then buyers are just going to be coming in again saying, hey, look, rinse and repeat, it's the same opportunity again, it's just an ATM machine, right? Will be interesting to see, and I think I'm going to keep it on watch. Nothing hard convicting out of me right now. I was trying to play, if it goes potential red to green, that's going to be another potential opportunity, especially touching this 4 level. I think this 40 level, I would be convicted to potentially play to the long side, risking whatever technical levels show their way. Certainly not risking all the way down to like this 3-4. I would try to pick something that was showing itself on that intraday as a risk opportunity, playing it for more upside on this one. Very interesting chart, and great OTC ticker to learn from as well too. Great to be a part of and see at least some action in the OTC markets as well. HLBZ, my trade on the day, of course, in the big mover. Story time on this one. So I still had this one on my watch list just as a educational watch I had it on my short watch list, where I just say, hey, we had this big, huge perking day on that huge volume day, and then you get the kind of hard selling off in the close. Of the patterns I've seen, I see we don't really have a strong second day after that. Maybe it goes down a little bit, doesn't go down awesomely, amazingly enough for me to say, hey, this is an absolute trade pattern that I want to be a part of. But the probability, I feel, is there most of the times that it's just a slow bleeder off of this kind of gap down day that eventually does go into the third day, just continues to drop off more and more. But this, even at that point too, as I'm reviewing this chart before that 10:30, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time frame that I pulled this chart up, I knew in the back of my head too, oh, this thing is such a low floater. The float was, I don't even have float, but super low floater, of course. I'm going through this thought process in my head as I'm reviewing this one of, man, this this, if it does get any news catalyst whatsoever, this thing could just absolutely catapult, right? So then I go to whatever ticker, I go to the bathroom, do whatever. And it's literally like 4 minutes later, these 4 candles that I look back to the scanner and I see HLBZ up 85%. And I go, what? Is that the same ticker I just reviewed, HLBZ? And sure shooting, this freaking ticker is up 85% at whatever point, and it's continuing to go up. It's beyond, goes up to beyond 100%. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Right, it wasn't frustrating. It wasn't, like, oh, you're an idiot, but it was just so coincidental of how that happened, just literally minutes before. I was like, oh, you should have told me to buy a few shares. Huh? That would have been nice. But so it was whatever. And don't know if I told myself beforehand that I'm not going to trade it hard pre-market or trade anything pre-market, because there really wasn't anything else enticing for me in regards to a big percentage mover that I wanted to play pre-market. And this just action was not enticing for me whatsoever to try and say, hey, it could go more to the upsides here. We could get a little squeeze. Decent percentage moves potentially, but I did well in just, leeching myself back and waiting until market hours till actual substantial trade appeared for me to get a part of. And I totally vouch for what I did on this one today too. I checked the borrow fees actually just for fun, of course, too, just to get another indicator on what this thing could potentially do. And it was like over $1 per share to borrow through Trade Zero, which was pretty spicy. And even watching this thing out of the gate from the morning open, I told myself I traded this thing, of course, on the tick. How many trades we have? Just over 500,000 trades on the day, $1.6 billion volume on the day. Told myself too, as we're trending and then double topping here, I'm thinking as we're around this like $37 area, I'm going, hey, I think number 7 would potentially get short here. He'd be looking maybe, or this style of trade would be, hey, let's short into a morning spike. And I, of course, was late to the party. It wasn't until a little bit after that I recognized that. So it was around this time frame that I was saying, this could be a decent little short here. Not like I'm trying to play a full day trend on this one that is just going to continue to die off and crow from that point in time. But that was a decent little percentage move trade that, shoulda, coulda, woulda taken. I certainly was going to be waiting a long time as a long for any type of dip and rip or perk to the upside, really not keying in on a new high of day attempt. But that was just another thought too, and I think I want to apply that a little bit more in the future. Maybe do some paper trades, maybe just continue to take that data for myself of identifying this was an easy little pick here to see too of this double top as a potential short into a morning spike, just for a little move to the downside, even taking it at VWAP, covering at VWAP, or covering as it, breaks that VWAP point. That's an awesome cover into strength as well too. Not trying to slam a home run on a type of trade like that, but good to see that I'm kind of going in a little bit of the right direction and identifying those types of patterns. But in regards to my long trade that I took here, this was the only $36 trade. So I took 200 shares that I took here. Obviously basing it off of the risk of the VWAP here, we bounced 3 times beautifully. It doesn't appear as beautifully on the 1 minute. It does a little bit, of course, it even shows it a little bit more. But this one, I just became, if you put a gun in my head and ask me the mathematical probability of this thing either cracking VWAP or going to the upside, or maybe testing to a new high of day, I would have put the probability more so on this thing cracking VWAP. It just became, though, this little sense in me that I carried over from that short perspective of I was just waiting for this thing to crack VWAP. Okay, we've held VWAP, crack VWAP, crack VWAP. We're just continuing to hammer it and sit right on top of that line. Maybe the energy that I was experiencing from that pushed me to believe, oh, there could be a lot of other people waiting for the same thing. Maybe this thing gets a little bit of more of a kick to the upside. I'm not even looking for, from this long position, which was, I think it was a great entry. I got just under $35, risking, of course, this like $34 whole area. And getting into that trade too, I got totally screwed on my stop order. I think I put my stop at $33.99, which I screwed myself over because that's an entire dollar of slippage in a sense from that level. I got like 33 and change, a little bit from there. So totally screwed myself over on what I was initially risking versus what I could get from that stop order. Yeah, that's my fault. I'll have to adjust that in the future or potentially look at, because even if I didn't have a stop in, I would have gotten potentially even better fill or the exact same if I didn't have a stop in this situation. It's not going to be the same way in the future on a lot of these quick movers that dip below a certain key level, but that was the case in this one today, which was funny to see. But what was I getting into? So the thesis for this long too, especially came, even though I didn't feel the probability was there that the higher probability would be for this thing to trend higher, for it to even potentially touch a new high of day. The pattern in my head came from other tickers that I felt have been recent runners that just find this area of range right away in the morning session, and they really fail to pick a trend in that morning session. And their entire life in that morning is just to hit stops and be volatile. And I pulled up some charts of going through the past ones of ABVC from like the 1st of September, in which you get this you get the big pre-market move to the upside, then you get this, it fails to really immediately from the market open, fails to identify what it wants to do. This one is of course a little bit different. It opened below VWAP and then perked to above VWAP. But overall, this wasn't even the best example. The funny part is still to come to. It's just kind of holding this range, and it's just being volatile. This, of course, isn't even the same type of percentage moves that HLBZ was doing today too, but this was really all I was looking to play. That it's failing to, yes, it's breaking VWAP here, or it's moving to the upside of VWAP here, but it's still just volatile. And I was kind of trading in a sense to picking the bottom range of that volatility for the morning session, not looking to do anything crazy with it, but kind of looking to take off. I would have been way out even before that high of day test if it wanted to go insanely far past me and I was still failing to fill before it could touch to a new high of day, then that's a great problem for me to have. But this little inability for it to pick a spot, it got a little spike right away in that first minute, but just it wasn't identifying what it wanted to do. And I feel as if and when stocks do that, the big pre-market movers, then they tend to just hold that range for a good amount of time in the pre-market. And it's just kind of tough both ways, short and long, trying to trade that way. If you're not potentially trying to do something like I did in that sense of picking the exact bottom price, of course, risking super small, really pretty decent risk reward in that sense too, because this would have been a way beyond 10% profit opportunity, even if it didn't touch to a new high of day. But then, of course, like I did too, having to take that stop order slippage risk in a sense too, because a lot of other people may be playing that same risk level. Not even people trading the same thesis as you too, but longs looking to play even more upside in that sense too. Where was I going? Oh, so then I try and look at other tickers that were matching that type of thesis, and then I realized it was the same ticker from that day on Friday that pretty much resembles exactly what I was trying to think about with this trade of this is a good little perspective of it, that it's again not the exact same as what it did today, but perks pretty much consistently into the open, and it's just holding this little range. It's not like, hey, we're going hard green, hey, we're going hard red, but it's just trending here for a good while, at least within first hour of the market session or the market open. And it did not do that today for some reason. That it just said, hey, we're gonna trend lower and we're gonna fake a lot more people out, screw those people out, and then pretend like that was the only fake out, and then we're gonna screw even more people out after that too. So that's just how the market is evolving, and that's where we're at, and it's continuing to grow, that we're going to have to learn how to be able to adapt to, of just the ever-growing and changing volatility and patterns, and nothing is ever going to really rinse and repeat the same exact way over and over again. So, of course, stuck to my risk level, stuck to my parameters that I set very well. Of course, that stop order slippage kind of screwed me over a little bit for the P&L size that I was risking on that one, but that would have been a pretty decent reward too if you just wanted for whatever reason, if it wanted a quick spike against to potentially touch like this 37 level, come close to 38 potentially, I would have been definitely taking shares off, the vast majority of my position off at that point. But just didn't happen. And then again, now closing pretty softly, pretty weak into the close here now. So could see the same exact thing. Like I said too, it doesn't ever happen the exact same, but could see the same type of resemblance here, that now tomorrow is just another fading, stupid day that maybe is not a potentially hard down red day. It is pretty high up on the chart in comparison to where it was trading, but great ticker on that one. great movement on that one. I'm stalling for time. CRVS, of course, the next ticker. A lot of other tickers on the watch list, of course, that everybody else is looking at, but CRVS too is just very interesting. No news catalyst for this run up. It's not like it's a crazy low floater. 18.5 million floater with 2% reported short interest. It's an American biotech, so you know for sure it's definitely getting manipulated for some point. But the volume on this just doesn't make any sense for me. How is it possible that it's continuing to get this insane, this exponential growing price action, but yet the volume just isn't coming alongside of it too? That makes me enticed as a short to say this thing is way overextended on no news, on just absolute manipulation, but then respecting the ability for this thing to absolutely smack shorts too is a true reality we have to take along with it. It's just, you know, perks, of course, in the morning session to that red greenish area and then just starts to go. It says, hey, we're going, and consolidates for a wide range once again too, and gets even more perk and all the way to 9.5, and now pulling back hard too. Just kind of mind-numbing. I don't have any hard trading prospectus on it for what it wants to do, but just the respect that you have to learn from these as well too, and keep yourself humble in all of these as a short, as a long. I'm saying this thing is just absolutely so crappy, and you can kind of benefit well as a long, I think, way more than a short, because shorting is all about timing, right? But just, of course, I wanted to mention this one because of the learning lessons that it has too. Like I mentioned, yeah. That is all I wanted to mention, really, too, just keeping it quick and simple. I think that's going to do better for my focus too, and especially as I'm going through more of these videos from the past too, I know that I do err on the side of putting way more data out there than I really need, but I will always try to do that too. It's way more beneficial to have way more than you need than not enough. But going watch list for tomorrow, CYBL OTC ticker sell off today, so really don't know if it wants to panic tomorrow, if it could have a decent panic because of the panic it did have today too. Not an insane amount of volume on the day. It was like $16 million volume. So not absolutely ludicrous, but keep it on watch too. And even like a red to green, it could potentially be a nice little reversal. That's a pretty far way to wait for a trade to potentially come closer to that 4.6 point to try and trade from up there. But I mean, coming to that like 4 cent level, maybe if we're holding well and strong, putting some nice levels on that like 3.6 points from the red to green, could offer some opportunities on that one. MRIN spiking on some news from Google ads or something, putting in some nice percentage moves here in the after hours. Absolutely over 100%. I didn't even see that. What is it at right now? Let's check the old data. We got, oh, it doesn't show me on that one. Oh yeah, whatever. It's a 9.8 million floater. This is a former runner that I remember. Yeah, very nice former runner with super long downside too on this. So we'll see what it wants to do. Over 100% or just under 100%. Right around 100% that it tapped 10.5 from the close here. See what it wants to do going into pre-market tomorrow. LPTX had an offering, but also just didn't completely die off. I mean, still green from the open today. Had a pretty hard sell-off immediately after the close here, which was, of course, when the offering was released. So could see a failed offering dump opportunity come on this one for how far up it is as well, where we are in this little kind of cupish parabolic move. If more volume wants to squeeze any potential shorts that are trying to hold this thing overnight too, could get pretty interesting on that one. And then EDSA looking for a third day surge type of play on this one. Little whippity boop boop up type of day here. After that pretty nice move yesterday, could see a little third day surge with looking for volume to come in, looking for red to green level. We got $9 whole level as a little key area psychologically as well too, potentially keep in mind, or basing a trade off of this $8 whole level. Could get pretty interesting on that one. That is all I had coming in under 30-minute time frame too. That's what I want to focus on more. Keeping these videos nice and short and simple and concise, getting that info in right away. Useful information for me so I don't have to absolutely bang my head against my wall with 2 times speed on every single time too. I thank you guys for watching. If you have made it this far, I sincerely thank you. Please leave a like and a comment. Hit that subscribe button. Ring that notification bell. Get me to actual monetization from this YouTube channel, so I don't feel like an idiot just absolutely doing it for my own benefit. I really don't feel like an idiot, but it would make me feel a little bit better too that I'm getting a little slice back from YouTube on any potential ads playing from this one. That is certainly it. I thank you guys so much for watching. Again, we will catch you guys tomorrow.